Hey, what's up everyone? Welcome back to Babylon Talmud. Today we're studying Daf Mem Ches, Daf 48 of Masechta Yoma. It's like a funny little daf, like a few assorted, scattered Teku questions, some technical questions about Ketores and Dam of cows and animals and stuff. So let's just kind of jump in over here. And we're going to start all the way at the bottom of Mem Zayin Amud Beis Ba'i. All right, now I'm in Mem Ches. Rav Papa, dabke lekometz bedofnei demana. My. Okay, so when you take the fistful of flour from a korban mincha, so you take the kometz, the fistful, and then what you do is you put it in a klisharis, in some kind of a vessel, and from the vessel you're going to put it on the mizbeach. So now you're supposed to put the flour on the bottom of the vessel. What if you want it to be a shtickle, what's that called? I don't know. I was thinking nonconformist, but I feel like that's not really what I'm looking for. But you want to do things a shtickle different. So you put it on the side of the kli. That's how you're going to kind of be a little different. So the shaila is, by your desire to do things differently, is that kosher apostle? So Papa asked, so if a person takes a fistful of flour, and that's his kometz, and he puts it into klisharis, but he doesn't put it on the bottom, he puts it on the side, no. Do we say, look, Pasha, you need to put it in the kli, put it in the kli. Or maybe you have to do it like a normal person, like a straight, what do they say in Hebrew? Sachi, like a very straight-laced person. Just do it like everybody else. What do you have to be different? What do you have to be unique for? Just do it like everybody else. Tekud. The Gemara says, we don't know. We don't know the Maisa. We don't know. So, be like everybody else. Put it on the bottom of the kli and go weiter. By Mar Baravashi asked the following kasha, Apke lemano v'dabke lekomes bar ise demano mau. What if you flip over the kli? And I think that there's different ways to understand it, but I think this way makes the most sense to me. Is what if you take the kli and instead of standing it up kind of on its base, you flip it over and then take the kometz and you stick it to what's now the roof of the kli, but what's really the bottom of the kli. What about that? So, do we say, look, it just needs to be in the kli, and it's in the kli? Or do we say, yeah, you have to do it like the normal people do it? So again, we don't know. Papa asked the kasha, when we say that he fills up his hands with ketores, so the Kohen Gadol fills up his hands with ketores, so is that like flat, like how much ketores? Do you like even it out? Like mamash just filling up his hands, no more, no less, no more? Or gedushos, maybe it means a heaping scoop. Amale Reb Abba Reb Ashi, so says Reb Abba to Reb Ashi Tashmakum in here. L'chafnav sha'amu l'mechukos v'lo gedushos. So when they say this like double fistfuls of ketores, it's not flat and it's not heaping. Ela tfufos, it's round, somewhere in the middle of Maisa. Tanan Osam. Do we have any Kohanim over here in Babylon Talmud? Maybe we have a future Kohen Gadol among us. So for me, it's easy to say like let's go weiter, but maybe the Kohen Gadol is one of our friends at Babylon Talmud, and it's mamish relevant. Well, it's not going to be me, so let's go weiter. Where are we? Tananosim, we learn over there in Zvachim. Nishbach adam ala ritzba va'asafo pasol. Okay, so if you slit the neck of an animal and all the blood is pouring out, now it's supposed to pour out into a vessel. That's what's called Kabbalah Saddam. But if it just kind of poured out on the floor, so and then you gathered it up into a kli pasol, it doesn't work like that. Yeah, it has to spill out directly into your vessel, not onto the floor and then scooped up into your vessel. But if the blood of the animal poured out into your vessel and from the vessel it fell on the floor, so then if you scoop it up from the floor, then that would be acceptable. So how do we know that the blood of the animal needs to go directly into the vessel? The Tana Rabban, that you take from the blood of the cow, midam hanefesh, v'lo midam or v'lo midam hatamtzis. We've seen this before, probably in Psachim, but that the blood that we're talking about is the dam hanefesh, the blood that the soul leaves with it, not the blood that's in the skin, not the blood that comes out after the fact, right? The blood that you need to collect is the blood that the animal was alive, this blood left the animal, now the animal is dead. All of that blood that came out during that process, that is the dam hanefesh. Once the animal is dead, so then any blood that comes out after that is what's called dam hatamtzis. Now, continues the Brisa, midam apar, from the blood of the cow, dam me'apar yikablenu. Bingo. And that's what we're looking for. That you have to, dam me'apar yikablenu, that you receive the blood from the animal and not from the floor. And therefore, you need to receive the blood directly, in the kli directly from the animal. Because if it enters your mind to say that when we say midam hapar, so we said that midam hapar, we had this interesting limud of dam me hapar, right? Midam hapar, dam me hapar. But maybe you'd have the meaning to say midam hapar means from the blood of the animal, i.e., you only need to collect some of the blood of the animal, but not all of it. But didn't Rav Yehuda say, but didn't Rav Yehuda say that somebody does Kabbalah Sodam, you have to receive all of the blood of the animal? Shenemar, as the pasuk says, Ves kol dam hapar yishbach yisod mizbach. Ha'ola, really. Right, as the pasuk says that all of the blood he will spill on the base of the mizbeach. So we need all of the blood. So you can't say that when it says mi dam hapar, it means from the blood of the animal, meaning that you only need some of the blood of the animal, but not all of it. No, we see that you need all of it. So then, what do you learn out from midam hapar? It's dam me hapar yikablenu. Elashmamina my midam hapar dam me hapar yikablenu, that you receive the blood directly from the neck of the animal. And the author of this brisa assumes that you can chop a letter from one word and tack it onto another word, which is what we're doing here. So midam hapar, we're taking the mem from midam and tacking it onto hapar to change midam hapar to dam me hapar. And that means that the blood needs to come directly from the neck of the cow. Okay? And therefore, if the blood spills on the floor and you pick it up from the floor, that would not be acceptable. Rav Papa asks a question, what happens if the Kohen Gadol takes his double fistfuls of ketores on Yom Kippur and it falls on the floor? So, do we treat his hands as though they were the neck of the animal, and just like if the blood from the neck of the animal goes onto the floor, it's a problem. So here also the ketores from the hands of the Kohen Gadol falling onto the floor is a problem. Or perhaps the hands of the Kohen Gadol are like a klisharis, and we know that if you receive the blood of the animal into a klisharis and from there it spills on the floor, so we said that would be okay to recollect it from there. So maybe then if the ketores falls out of the hands of the Kohen Gadol onto the floor, maybe that would be okay. Just like when the blood falls out of the klisharis, it's okay. Take it. We don't know the answer. Rav Papa asks a kasha, Chishe bachfinas ketoris mau. So of course I think it's come up. So yeah, it's certainly come up in the past. The idea of pigul, that if you do one of the avodas of a korban, such as shchita, under the condition that you're gonna, eat the animal outside of its proper time. So that's what's called pigul. So what if you do something similar with the chafina? What if the Kohen Gadol took the handsful of ketores with the intention of burning it the next day, meaning the day after Yom Kippur, which is obviously too late. So what if you have an improper thought in terms of when you're going to burn the ketores while you're taking if a Kohen Gadol has this improper thought while he is scooping up the ketores, do we say that we make a gzer shava of milo from mincha mahosim mahanya b'machshava hachanayim mahanya b'machshava. So just like by a korban mincha, when you take the komets, if you scoop up the flour in your fistful with the intention that you're going to throw it on the mizbeach outside of its proper time, so it's a problem. So maybe we'll say here as well that if he scoops up the ketores in his hands with the intention of burning them outside of its proper time, maybe it's a problem. Low. Or maybe we don't make the gzer shavim. Maybe we don't compare chafina to komets. Amalei Rav Shimon bar Asher Rav Papa Tashma come in here. Hosef Rabbi Akiva hasoles ve'aktoris ve'alevona ve'agecholim. That Rabbi Akiva said that when it comes to flour and when it comes to ketores, when it comes to levona, and when it comes to flour, when it comes to incense, when it comes to frankincense, and when it comes to coals, shemnaga tvul yom b'miktsas and pasal eskulan, that if a tvul yom, a fellow who was tameh, and then he went to the mikvah, and now he's waiting for Harav Shemesh, which of course we already know about from the first half of all of Shas. So he says that if a tvul yom touches any part of the flour or the incense or the frankincense or the coals, then pasal eskulan, he makes all of them pasal. So kosagadaitich min the pasal tvul yom pasal namilina, and therefore it enters our mind to say that just like if a tvul yom were to touch any of these items, so then we're saying that it would be possible. So then I would think also that lina, if they stayed, if they stayed overnight without doing their service, then it would also be possible. And therefore, midalina pasla nami machshavim. From the fact that lina would be a problem, well then a thought of doing the avoda the next day, which means that it would stay overnight, would also be a problem. Okay, that's what we want to say. So therefore, we want to say that if we want to argue that if the Kohen Gadol had the intention that he was going to burn the incense the day after Yom Kippur, it would be a problem. What if when he's shoveling the coals for the incense, he had intention that he's going to burn the incense outside of its proper time? So do we say that sort of these meta parts of the mitzvah, such as shoveling the coals, which isn't actually burning the incense, it's stuff that you have to do in preparation, as sort of the meta stages of burning the incense. So do we say that having an improper thought during the meta stages would be a problem? The Gemara says we don't know. Teku. From Rav Sheshes holacha b'smol mahu. What if you do holachas hadam while holding the blood in your left hand? Right. So Kabbalah Saddam and Zrika Saddam, they have to be done with the Kohen's right hand. But what about walking the blood to the Mizbeach? If he's holding the blood in his left hand, so is that okay? Amalu of Sheshes said to them, well, Tanisua, we have a Mishnah that says not osamachta. So Lamaisa, I think there's a Girsa that says a Brisa, or maybe not. Okay, I think that it's a Mishnah. Oh yeah, it was our Mishnah. Not osamachta b'mino v'sakav b'smolo. Duh. Right? The Rav Sheshes says, look, Lamaisa, it said in our Mishnah that the Kohen Gadol on Yom Kippur, he takes the shovel full of coals in his right hand, v'sakav b'smolo, and the spoon full of ketores in his left hand. So the ketores is the main shindig over here, and he's holding it in his left hand, and he's bringing it into the Kodesh HaKodashim. So we see that holacha seems to be acceptable if you're holding. And therefore, just like when you're holding the ketores, it's acceptable. So I would assume that walking the blood to the Mizbeach while holding it in your left hand should be acceptable as well. Why did Rav Sheshes learn it out from the ketores in Yom Kippur? Why not learn it out from the following Mishnah? Haregel shel yomin b'smol ve'isor lechutz. That it says in Masechta Talmud that when the Kohen whose job it was to take the head and the back right leg to the kevesh, would go to the fellow who was chopping up the animal, and he would take the head and the back right leg, and he would hold the head in his right hand and the back right leg in his left hand. So we see that he's schlepping something in his left hand, and that's acceptable. So he may hasam if it was from there, hava mina hanimile olachad lo ma'akva kapara, olachad lo ma'akva kapara lo kamashmalan. So the Gemara says, well, the reason why Rav Sheshes didn't want to bring a proof from there is because at the end of the day, the main thing where the atonement and the main sort of avoda of an animal, of a korban, is the blood. And therefore, and therefore, when it comes to schlepping the head and the back right leg to the kevesh, even if that doesn't happen, you're still yotze the korban, right? It's not something that's like a crucial part of the avoda of the korban, as opposed to something like holachas hadam, which is like super important, right? The shrita, the kabbalah sadam, the olachas hadam, the zrika sadam, those are like the crucial parts of a korban, and therefore I might have the havmina to say that even though yes, you could schlep the head and the leg, and you're holding the leg in your left hand, and that's okay, but maybe the blood, which is much more core, a much more core part of the process, maybe that would not be okay in your left hand. Therefore, we have the proof that the Kohen Gadol on Yom Kippur would hold the incense, which was mamish, a main part of the avoda, in his left hand. So we see that was acceptable. Chevra, that was daf mem ches of Masechta Yoma, like interesting little daf, like bunch of like teku kind of questions. Yeah, we learned that there was that sugya there about that if the blood of the animal falls onto the floor, so it's not okay, but it has to first go into the klei sharis, and from there it falls onto the floor, you could scoop it up, and that would be acceptable. We said that there is a concept of pigul by the chafina of the Kohen Gadol, that he, if he takes the fistfuls of incense thinking that he's going to burn them the next day or something, then that would be unacceptable. And finally, we had an interesting question at the end about can a Kohen bring the blood to the mizbeach, to holachas adam, in his left hand? And the answer seems to be acceptable, yes, and we learn it out from the fact that the Kohen Gadol holds, as we learned yesterday, the incense in the spoon in his left hand. Alright, Chava, that was daf Memches of Masechta Yoma. I hope you enjoyed it. Cheers.